everybody. Welcome to the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. I'm Matt Michaels with Sin City Steve, Rob Bolsolari, and Captain America, John, the honorary bad boy. Today, we're going to do a 3-count here, looking forward to 2024 and the state AEW will be in the new year. So let's get to count number one. The first question is, what needs to be addressed as the problems AEW have that actually need to be fixed? I'm going to start, of course, with Sin City Steve to tell us a little bit of what the fixing needs to be in 2024.
All right. So the fact is there are quite a few areas of opportunity, if you will, for AEW in 2024. I'm going to focus on the elephant in the room, and something that we've called out numerous times over the years on this show, and it's not just our show. Everybody's talking about it. The AEW women's division. I think where you start with this, very simple. Athena needs to drop that Ring of Honor Women's Championship as soon as possible and get on AEW TV weekly. She has been the best part of the relaunched Ring of Honor.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, she's doing better character work in a promotion that is getting absolutely no visibility than what she did during her entire time in WWE.
She's kind of the Ring of Honor what Bayley is to SmackDown. She's putting over all the other women and lifting them up. Absolutely.
I think that she, as well as a recently medically cleared Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb, could breathe some life back into that women's division, along with the pending return of Jamie Hayter, who was on fucking fire right before her injury that completely derailed her 2023. Also, Toni Storm. There you go. Toni Storm is doing her best character work of her entire career right now. No questions asked on that. There are several things that are, that have promise for 2024. You've got Julia Hart, who had an amazing 2023 and now aligning with Sky Blue. I think that things could be interesting there if they go a certain route. But
if they go that route, it's going to be amazing.
I mean, nonetheless,
might get me off this Jade Cargill kick of those two.
Hey, I'm just saying, right?
2 9s making 18.
Hello. But of course,
which between them, those two make what, about 36, because they're both right around 19, 18.
Well, there you go.
Oh man.
Hey man. Right in the prime demo.
Hey, that's in Ric Flair's demo.
Yeah. That's what I like about wrestling. I keep getting older and the women stay the same.
The same age.
Jeez.
All right.
Above all else, there definitely just needs to be more than one women's match or segment on each show so that they can build some fucking characters in that division. I realize that there's a bloated roster, but yeah, you've got the time. Use it more efficiently.
Steve, don't mention bloated with the women's division. Okay, so Rob, what do you see? What do you see?
Stop.
Here's my problem with AEW. Right now, they're doing the Continental Classic, and it's almost been like a reset button. Good. But when we come out of this now, are we going to go back to status quo, which is we're going to start a storyline, and we're going to establish that the protagonist, the heel versus the babyface are going to fight, and then either the heel or the babyface are going to disappear for 3 weeks, and one of the two main guys in the story is going to wrestle 5 fucking jobbers, and then we'll get back to this story a month down the road. My always complaint of WWE was they keep doing the same thing every week. Raw is predictable. Every week it's the same match we saw the week before. They might switch it up once every every other month. They'll finally do something new. AEW doesn't do anything. They'll do, okay, so we're going to have, all right, I got it. We're going to have Bullet Club Gold go after MJF. And then in the meantime, Bullet Club Gold is going to wrestle the fucking Iron Horseman or some shit. You're like, the Iron Workhorses or whatever the fuck. And you're going, Who are these people? I don't care. If you're going to do a storyline, follow the storyline through. If you're going to have CJ Perry manage Andrade El Idolo minus her freaking infected finger, leading up to that, that was the only legitimate excuse. They put that on the show for 3 weeks. We have to have consistent storytelling, right? If you're going to do a vignette and it doesn't land, the vignette with Adam Cole and Roderick Strong did not hit. We didn't get to hear it. We're like, all right, we got the gist of what they were going for, and instead they played the whole thing all over again. This was like that bad fireworks show they tried to do that one time. We get it. It was funny. He made Adam Cole do the lawn with a bum leg while the other guys played with a stuffed giraffe. Great. I got the gist of it. I didn't need to hear the audio with it. All right. They should have just said, go to AEW.com and you can upload. That was it. We didn't need to see the whole thing. You canceled out a match for that. They need to be consistent with their storytelling. If you don't want guys to get injured in the ring because they're overworked, I get that. But then have it be somebody in that other guy's faction or one of his friends. WWE knows how to do this. They'll go, Roman Reigns will go, okay, Jimmy, get in there and fight him. All right, we pushed the story along. You didn't get overworked in the ring, so I don't have to worry about you getting hurt. And the story moved forward. And if we're going to have 90,000 goddamn belts, all right, I didn't like there being a TNA TBS belt. I thought that was kind of unoriginal. But then now we have a Continental belt. Okay, but what was the international belt? They sound exactly the same. WWE has.
Wait, Rob, you're missing the AAA belt that was defended on the ROH pay-per-view.
I know, and this is the other thing. Why are there 2 3-man tag belts? We haven't seen the Acclaimed in forever and a day. The Ring of Honor belts, those guys sit in the back. Did you see that? The 3 of them are dressed in ring attire, but they're in the back. And I get it. All of the programming is shot pretty much on Dynamite, and they divvy it up. But let me just say I'm a mark for a second, and I want to suspend my disbelief. Why do I want to see Brian Cage and all of the Mogul Embassy guys in the back sitting there with Prince Nana like, oh, yeah, these guys are just randomly here on Wednesday night. They're not going to be wrestling until Collision on Saturday night. So what's going on here? Like, at least try to cut
catering, Rob. The catering.
I know. TNA, like, you'd see 4 weeks of TNA, and it's the same guy in the front row, and you're like, he's fine. And I'm stupid. I'm going, wow, this guy must be going to all the shows. He's been showing up for a month straight. They don't leave Las Vegas. Wow, Samstown is really cool. Okay. But AEW has more money. They could do a slightly better job, especially if they know they're going to be cutting stuff up. I don't want to see these guys in their ring attire if they're cutting a promo. If they're here to back up, with Swerve Strickland, fine. But it has to make sense. I'm a sci-fi guy originally, and Star Wars Admiral and the Super Star Destroyer is a commander in the Return of the Jedi. They demoted him, and I'm watching. They go, why did they do that? Why did they do? So don't do stupid stuff that's easily avoidable, but keep the storyline going. Keep the storyline going. And if you're going to keep pushing names out there, don't have them lose nonstop. Okay, what the fuck is the point of having Mark Briscoe get swept? Why am I?
He won one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Jay Lethal got swept. Why do I want to see guys who are over with fans easily? And are they wrestling at their height? Maybe not. But then if they're Ring of Honor guys and they're not wrestling at their peak, don't put them on Dynamite, put them on Ring of Honor, make Ring of Honor bigger with the name value that they bring, and do not waste them on your flagship show if they're not going to wrestle at peak performance and give me banger matches, because they didn't give banger matches. That match with Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal, they were both wrestling at 50%.
Well,
they were both.
Wouldn't you?
Of course, but that's my point.
It's like, why are we even fucking wrestling at this point? One of us is going to have 0 wins. One of us is going to have 1 win. We've already fucking jobbed out to everyone else in this fucking tournament.
Right. And that's my point. And the thing is, now, if you knew you were going to do that, because this is all booking, right? They always say, well, in the story, it's all booking. This is all a matter. Okay, if you knew you were going to do that, shorten it up. They could have shortened out this whole Continental Classic, shaved about a couple of weeks worth of bullshit matches we didn't need, send him over to Ring of Honor with Colt Cabana, where Colt Cabana knows where his bread is buttered. He's just being a freaking goofball over there. He's being a comic relief wrestler. He's back to what he's doing. He's not doing this, and maybe he's a heel, and maybe he's not, and maybe, you know what? This entire time, we never even knew if he was actually in Dark Order. He never was actually in Dark Order. He kept showing up with them, but they never actually inducted him in, if you remember. That's my point. There's all this vagary in AEW. WWE goes, this guy is in the Judgment Day, and we're going to conduct Judgment Day business. Judgment Day.
Wait. Is Drew McIntyre in Judgment Day? Thank you.
Bloody Judgment Day.
All right. John, over
Got
to
him.
you, man. What do you think needs to be addressed problem-wise in AEW?
I mean, I'm gonna tip my hat to Steve on what he said about the women's division. Prime example of that. I took my daughters to see Collision. It was their first time ever seeing AEW, and the first thing that they both said,
I'm sorry.
Why was there only one women's match? They didn't get that either. They love Tony Storm. They didn't get that. So hands down, yes. So I'm gonna list this off. First off, in all things related to Tony Khan, hire a booker. Tony Khan is a matchmaker. He does not know how to book. He does not know how to do long-term storytelling. Case in point from this previous week's Dynamite, Roderick Strong versus Commander. What was that? What was the purpose of that? I mean, is a randomly thrown together match, much like our 8-man, 12-man tag teams on Rampage. Like, I'm done with it. Also, speaking of Tony Khan, somebody please take away his phone. I know a guy in Vegas. He's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He would be great at running your social media. Give him a call. We know you listen to the show. Next with this.
He's not wrong.
Thank you. The inmates cannot run the asylum. This is something that's been said time and time again. Whether you're an EVP, whether you're an active wrestler or active referee on the disciplinary council, it is a conflict of interest. You cannot tell me you're doing things with integrity and true accountability with having that happen. Can't be done. You need a separation of duties. As we've said before, refereeing, you got to do better. Also, tighten up the screws and the production errors. Yes, it's a newer company, but also this May will be 5 years since the inaugural Double or Nothing. We need to start getting away from that excuse that it's a new company, and we need to just start looking forward. Steady commentating. I personally don't like this switching in and out of the commentators. Like,
yes.
Oh, we have Jim Ross for the main event.
Completely.
We have Tony Schiavone for the first half. Like, have one core team and stick to it because it gets confusing.
Guys, can we just cut Jim Ross at this point?
My God, barbecue sauce.
Yes, yesterday was decent.
Athleticism.
Yesterday was decent. It wasn't great Jim Ross. It was decent. And his worst is his best is not good anymore.
No,
yeah.
Fully agreed. And he's the voice of a lot of our youths. It's sad to say, but yeah.
But that guy is not there. The Hell in a Cell 98 guy is not what we got now.
There's only one voice of our youth, and that is Gorilla Monsoon.
And Bobby the Brain Heat.
Bobby the Brain Heat. There you go.
Going back to my Tony Khan complaints, no more special announcements. Just put it on social media. I'm done with it. It's clickbait for viewership. I'm over it. Next, streaming deal. Make it happen. Quit talking about it. Make it happen. Especially for a platform for the pay-per-views. We want to get away from Bleacher Report. Like I said, I know for Steve, Saturday pay-per-views doesn't work for him. Let's have something we could just all go to. Okay. And then oversaturation of talent with not enough TV time. Like I said, we talk about ROH. Rampage is a joke. We should maybe make Friday night the ROH night, but we need to maybe start looking into talent cuts. Quit trying to hire everybody. I respect giving people employment and getting them paid, but what are you doing with them? Why is Keith Lee either in catering or he's on the 0 hour of Wrestle Dream wrestling a intergender match with Athena and Billy Starks as the tag partners? He deserves better than that.
Well, at least he got enough of a pay bump to get his die back, so he doesn't have the
That's
great.
true.
So
that is true.
Thank God.
All right, so count number 2. What wrestlers do we need more of and less of? Rob, who do we need more of and who do we need less of?
Right now, I'm going to go Gold Brand, Lexi's King. I like him. I like that he's getting polished. He's getting a cult.
AEW 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Although I do like
mean, if Pillman comes back to AEW in 2024, we know something went horribly wrong, and maybe he was a registered Lexi offender there.
Very loose cannon.
AEW, in AEW, we need a lot more of. I do like Roderick Strong. I do like Roderick Strong, but he needs somebody to work with, and right now he's rudderless. He's got the right obnoxious attitude. He's got amazing in-ring moves, screaming in people's faces and cutting off, people during an interview. He's you know what he is? He's literally like MJF with a little bit more coffee a year and a half earlier,
And without the Riddlum.
I mean, he's not bad. He's growing into something, but they don't have anyone for him to really spar with. So it looks like he's trying to do something, but he has nobody to bounce off of. And even Adam Cole wasn't a good foil for him because Adam Cole was just doing it really deadpan dry. He wasn't really getting angry. And you need that. You need almost like a, and again, going over to WWE, like a Michael Cole type, somebody, or maybe Shivani could do it. Somebody who's easily annoyed, whether it be a wrestler or you need somebody. Because that's what Britt Baker was doing with Shivani, and then she became famous just by pissing off Shivani, and then you need something like that. Less of. It's really hard to say. I mean, you got these side guys there, and you mentioned Keith Lee. I just, I don't like the Satnam Singhs. I don't like I don't like that whole crew. They don't add anything. Why do I care about Karen Jarrett? Why do I care about Jeff Jarrett? And by the way, Jeff Jarrett looks good for his age, and he wrestles good for his age. But what is he adding? Nothing.
Bingo.
What is he adding? With Jay Lethal, could I get some fucking, Just for Men goatee dye and make him look, slightly younger and have
ask Keith Lee.
Right.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, Keith Lee looks like a fucking Obama. His hair is like a fucking Rorschach. It just changes colors, and
it's a chia pet.
Right. And Keith Lee's another one. I feel bad for Keith Lee because he never outgrew NXT. Keith Lee is the guy who peaked in high school, and he was in his lane, and it was unfortunate. It did not carry over. Didn't carry over to the WWE main roster, and it didn't make it to AEW. I would see him flourish in TNA. It's sad to say. He needs to be in a smaller venue where he can hold court. He just doesn't work because he's too dry. And being dry works in certain venues. He needs to be in smaller venues. AEW's got problems, but it's too big for him. I also need to get rid of all these ROH guys coming over. Brian Cage is another one. Brian Cage is actually not that tall. He's not that big. He's swole, but he's got no mic skills. He's been beaten too many times. And it's unfortunate. You can't go back with him. The only thing he had going for him is that he could win matches, but he doesn't. He's a punching bag. He loses too easily. He's EC3. When EC3 got to WWE, they jobbed his ass out way too fast. And that's where Brian Cage is. Just jump him off. You know what you do?
He's the Lance Archer of AEW.
Right. But you don't fire these guys. And I'm going to say what I mean by that. I got a guy at my job who complains every day about the quality of work, but he won't quit. And finally, he gave up and he's quitting. You want to do is you just want to give these guys no time until they just want to leave on their own. And it's not hard to do that. You do what they did with EC3, and you give them nothing but vignettes to do, where you're sitting in the back with like a party favor, or doing food fights until the guy goes, "Oh, fuck this. I just want out. Please get me out of my contract." Just like MJF said, "Tony Khan, get me the fuck out of my contract." Do it. Just get all these guys, make their lives miserable, and get rid of them.
Well, John, what who do you need to see more of or less of?
Okay, more of. Even though I was pissed about dropping the ROH TV title and how that went about, more Samoa Joe. You need a veteran who has all the experience, who's been there, done that in the ring, that can help elevate all the talent. Samoa Joe is your guy. He didn't get that luxury in the WWE. I want to see more of him. So I love Joe. I've always been a big fan of Joe, going back to the TNA days. So please, more of, and we're talking two ex-WWE superstars who are doing the best singles work of their entire career. Swerve Strickland, if he does not have a major title around his waist by the end of 2024, something is terribly wrong. And then also Christian Cage, the ultimate heel. Everything he does is great. I even shouted for him at Wrestle Dream. I mean, I don't have a dad. Adopt me.
A fucking turtleneck. Who does that?
Exactly.
It's so obnoxious.
Everything he does, like,
it works though.
Even with his daughter, I loved it when he said to his daughter, "Who did you beat? You're not holding this title." It's classic. I want more of that every week. And also, we touched on this. I want to see more of big men, but big men being used properly. Will Hobbs, Keith Lee, Brian Cage, Big Bill. Don't, I know it's wrestling and we have to suspend disbelief, but don't tell me that Big Bill is going to get dropped by Orange Cassidy on one little kick. Like, let's increase the reality of it a little bit more, please. So, that goes with TK's knowing how to do a better job of booking the big men. Things I want to see less of going to 2024. Less bleeding from Moxley that serves no purpose. 2 minutes into a match.
Good luck.
I know. Good luck.
Blades from a white win, folks.
Exactly. Like, I'm all for color if it serves a purpose. Also, you see it all the time.
John, just hope he goes through menopause.
Wait a minute. I just want to see less of him blading in the ring. Can we fucking work on the camera direction there? That I have to see this guy fucking blading or cutting open and he's trying to swat the blood out of his head. I saw this one. He went,
"Yep,
it's not working. Damn it! Get the steel wool."
Less of. I also want to see less hot potatoing of the women's title. It went from Toni Storm to Sheeta, which I was pissed that Toni Storm did not get the initial run that she deserved, going to Saraya, which we all knew was going to happen All In. Then for Saraya a month later to give it back to Sheeta, to then give it back to Toni Storm. I'm done with the hot potato of it. Put it on one person and stay.
That title has been passed around more than Trish Stratus during the Attitude Era.
Who or Sonny previously.
Shit.
Should be getting passed around.
Found the driver for that crew, Sonny.
There it is. Less of. I want to see less good talent being constantly jobbed out. I was excited for Ruby Soho to come in and get a fresh start. It's embarrassing now. I'd rather her either stay in catering or go back and restart, the Riot Squad in WWE. Like, that's prime example right there. And less continuous signing of ex-WWE talent. This goes back to when the press conference for AEW first came about. They said, we are not about having all ex-WWE guys. Now what is it? It's full of ex-WWE talent, where we've joked around that there's an AEW pay-per-view, but it feels kind of like WrestleMania 30 at times. So I'm over that. Stick with your talent that you started from the beginning, grow them so you can grow the next generation of superstars.
Next week, Brock Lesnar, just because you said that.
Steve.
Probably.
He'll be going against Gunther at WrestleMania.
So, I'm gonna just echo John's last point that he just made there. When AEW started, it was exciting because you had your seasoned vets sprinkled on the show to give some familiarity to casual fans, give some name recognition. In the last couple of years, the roster has just gotten completely out of control, and that's largely due to signing of big name veterans from WWE. A lot of times, these veterans were casualties of budget cuts. Some of those guys, like the guys in the Blackpool Combat Club, Swerve Strickland, Christian Cage. Those last two are in, as John said, the best singles runs of their careers. I completely fucking agree with that. They've slotted in extremely well. Others like Andrade, Miro, Johnny TV, even Keith Lee, like what we mentioned earlier, even Adam fucking Copeland. It pains me to say this one too. It really fucking sucks. Adam Cole.
Yeah.
The entire time that he's been there, he's been injured. And that's terrible luck for him. And it's a terrible set of circumstances. But the fact is, he's been somebody that they should have been able to champion. And
don't forget
he's
Red
almost
Dragon.
an afterthought at this point.
Yeah.
You know, this shows
Valkyrie.
that absolutely. You know, this show is obviously being recorded before World's End. If Cole is the devil, then take him out of this list. But, you know, at this point, I think that we're all under the sad agreement that it's going to be Jack Perry that's the devil. Whatever. You know, bottom line.
I still don't believe he's injured.
Bottom line,
yeah.
I think we need I think we need fresh faces and homegrown talents to fill the roster, not just ex-WWE cast-offs.
There we go. All right, count number 3. What does the future look like for Tony Khan, John?
Okay, I'm going to say this. If he does not make necessary changes, matchmaking, you know, as opposed to booking instead of matchmaking, sorry, storylines that continue on for long term that makes sense. Not like how we're kind of going with the Devil storyline. I'm getting reminiscent of the reveal for the Black Scorpion in WCW in 1990 when it was Ric Flair, obviously, from the entrance ramp.
Wait. Did you just say that the Devil is going to be Ric Flair?
I did not say that. I said similar to the Black Scorpion storyline.
Oh, God. No.
If he doesn't make these necessary changes, you know, and pivot in the right direction, I fear that Tony Khan will have a Eric Bischoff WCW send-off, where even though it's his pocketbook, you know, there could be people coming in that, you know, get him off TV, get him away from the product. You know, they'll want his bank account, but that is it. So I have that fear for him. Exactly, Rob. And then once again, you know, the future for TK. It's been 4.5 years since the inaugural Double or Nothing in May of 2019. It's time. It was time to step it up. Like I said, we can't keep making the same mistakes. We can't be childish baby man on Twitter. You know, be the CEO and be the next Vince McMahon.
Excuse me. Attacking Disco Inferno is important to the vitality of the company. Okay, that guy's an asshole, and I need to stop everything I'm doing to have a Twitter war with fucking WCW Disco Inferno.
Listen. Disco said something that wasn't nice. Tony don't want to hear that. Tony just wants to hear that he's Tony, fucking great.
You have a great program. You just need to make a few changes. You're a fucking asshole and you're a rapist. Like what? Holy shit.
Wow.
Like, all right, Rob. Well, let's go there. What do you think the future looks like for Tony?
The future doesn't look any different here, and this is what I think is going to happen. He's going to hold on to mediocre numbers. He's going to roller coaster on numbers. He'll have a few, surprises here and there that will bring his numbers to crest towards that 1 million mark. And I don't think he's going to learn much because I think he has the recipe to have a mediocre product. And if we think about it, that's what at least my understanding of it was before I met any of you. And I was with some of my other wrestling fans and we're watching this and their idea was, okay, it's a Wednesday night show. It's going to try to knock NXT out and then hold a spot. And that's all it's going to do. They're not looking to do 20,000 seat arenas. They'll be happy with 10,000. And if they get 1 million, that's great. And their demos will hold and they'll showcase new wrestlers and there'll be a mid-card promotion. Okay. And then he got full of himself. And we can make all the drug jokes, but the guy got full of himself and stretched out too thin. He made too many goddamn shows and too many back shows. I don't give a shit about watching the Elite on YouTube. Look, the guys on Busted Open watch 15 hours a week of wrestling. Mark Henry said that. I got a day job, buddy. I'm not watching 15 hours a fucking week of wrestling. I like TNA. I like some of the matches in New Japan. Okay? I don't have the energy to watch fucking 20 hours of wrestling, and then I want to watch the wrestling review, so I'm going to watch Busted Open, and there's a lot of other programs where everyone analyzes wrestling to death, and every time somebody gets a hangnail like Lana, I'm like, oh my god, she got a staph infection. You're like, okay, but this guy's not going to learn from his lessons, and all he has to do is keep Dynamite around 700,000, 800,000 every week. If the other two shows tank, it really doesn't matter. He's got disposable income. In my assessment, I don't think there's going to be much change for him. And I brought this up a long time ago, and you guys said, hey, well, what about his dad? How much how much would failing really affect him? Okay, Shahid Khan, how much would failing, would the Khan who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars give a shit if AEW tanks? Does it matter? Is there a family legacy on the line? Is there something for him to go, wow, I need to be cattle prodded here because I'm about to lose it all? Would he care? I mean, I'm surprised TNA's still around after all these years. They've changed hands many times. Anthem owns them, and then it's going to Endeavor. They have a chance to be elevated.
No, it's not going to Endeavor.
Endeavor's got the streaming rights. I understand.
It's the streaming deal.
Right, I understand. But that is still a bigger partnership. And my thing is, when they were on the Pursuit Network, some of us stayed in with them and said, I'm going to keep watching, even though you're on public access 99 Arizona, and we stayed in there. This is too big to allow that to happen, but I think he's going to be happy with being mid-card, and he's a Chihuahua attacking a Great Dane. There was a great line. Billy Gunn was in the ring with all the other guys from DX, and he goes, hey, man, Vince can't fire me now. And Triple H turns around and goes, he will buy that little pissant promotion just so he can fire you a second time. And that's the reality of it is Vince McMahon, whether you love him or hate him, has wrestling dialed in. He always has found a way to keep his program dialed in. Oh, there's not a competitor? Fine. I'll say that Raw and SmackDown are two different brands. What? That's stupid. But people believed it. Oh, NXT is just a back alley. No. Well, we're going to elevate it. He knows how to stay relevant. Tony Khan's not going to learn a goddamn thing. It's going to be business as usual by the end of the year.
All right, Steve. Finally, what does the
sadly, I don't think that he's going to stop this course of action that he's on right now. As was just mentioned. Yeah, it's just going to keep on going. That train's going to keep going off the cliff until it's too late. Ideally, how could he change things? Well, obviously, he needs to stop making these stupid fucking special announcements. They have diminishing returns and have for quite some time. He needs to stop making himself part of the show. That was something that he said that he didn't want to do.
That was Cody Rhodes' job.
Right. The thing is, for him to do something as frequently as he does, he's on every media scrum. Come on, man. Just he's definitely fighting for something that he loves. I'll give him that. But it is definitely something worth fighting for. Going back to his words from the ROH Final Battle media scrum. I really wish that he would learn how to delegate. He definitely needs to figure out how to disperse his different duties from booking to matchmaking to doing all the stuff that he does and not be so honed in on literally he has become Vince McMahon. We've said it on the show. He has become the thing that he hates the most. And it's astounding being one of the biggest proponents of that company to just see what has happened. And, I'm sure that it's been longer than a year, but 2023 has definitely been an eye-opener for a lot of people. And I'm one of those people. This is a destructive path that he's on. And the only way that he's going to change is to have full wholesale overhaul type changes.
So here's my thought. And it's very simple. Tony Khan doesn't hate Vince McMahon. Tony Khan wants to be Vince McMahon. All right, and that's going.
He did it with that promo with MJF and Adam Cole, where they were talking outside his office, and he came out in the black and white suit and started yelling at them. I'm like, it was cringy because you're not that guy.
Absolutely,
you're not that guy. You're completely out of your element. It looked ridiculous.
And that's the issue here. The problem is falling upon the ego versus the reality. And quite honestly, being an only child, I know that the hardest thing for someone like him to do is to allow anyone else to play with his toys. And that's why you're never going to see delegation, because it's his toys. This is all he wanted, is something to play with. And here's the problem that you all kind of were getting at, but really didn't hit the nail on the head. And that was this. When All In took place, the reason it was successful to any degree is because it was hip. It was cool. It was something out of the ordinary. Why did the Young Bucks and Bullet Club start getting all this attention? Because they were able to get their shit into Hot Topic. People were walking around with those fucking shirts on. And I go back years hearing this story that Tony Khan had no fucking idea what Bullet Club was, but he kept seeing these shirts. And then that's what led him to finding out about All In and what was going on.
So what you're saying is he's the Elon Musk of wrestling.
He's the Elon Musk of wrestling with no social skills at all. Yeah, he's like Howard Hughes. If you put Howard Hughes together with that germophobic, that like keep me away from everything, but I also want to be the center of attention. He's a walking contradiction.
But my thing was, how good was AEW when we thought it was really, and we know it was a touch kayfabe, when it was Cody Rhodes running the show, and the idea was we've got Daddy Khan over there signing the checks, and he's got a dad behind him signing the checks, but Cody's the one who comes in the suit. He looks dashing. He's the super baby face. He's the leader. It's
because that's what this was supposed to be. This was supposed to be those guys. That's why they're fucking called EVPs, is because those guys were supposed to be quote unquote running the show. But the problem is that when you get someone who has all the authority, period. I mean, it's the guy's checkbook. It's no one else's. So he now has all control of the toys. And that's where they fucked up. They wanted someone to put them on a national platform. The problem is that they all thought that they could control this guy. And they forgot that this guy is a fucking billionaire.
You know what it reminds me of? You know what the difference is between, or you know what an electric vehicle and an EV has in common? Low mileage. They're all injured, by the way. Every member of the elite is injured or quit. Yep. The elite was, as I understood it, maybe you guys back me up if I'm reading this wrong. I looked at Cody and Kenny Omega as the two big guys. Then below that, Young Bucks and Adam Page. Yep. Kenny Omega is fucking injured. He's been saying he's been wrestling injured. He's been talking about, he's worn out. He had that big promo against MJF where he said, man, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to, he foreshadowed what we have now. The Young Bucks walked off in disgrace. Matt Jackson was wearing a tank top because he had a belly going. He had like a beer belly going. That's when they wear the tank top. It's like, I got the beer belly. I'm not looking good enough to be seen topless. And I'm not making a joke. That's when they do that. That's why freaking, not the ring general, but the other ring general, Christian, not Christian. You mentioned him earlier. from Ring of Honor.
What? Who?
He used to team with Kazarian.
Oh, Daniels?
Yeah, Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels has got the onesie now because he's got the beer belly. He's earned it. He's over 50. He doesn't have that same metabolism. But these guys more specifically who are the elite are really in their like latter part of their career. They're not retirement level, but they're in that part of their career where all their injuries have caught up for them.
Yeah.
Cody is gone and he was the face of the whole company. There's no face of the company. You can't have the guy signing the checks be the face of it. Vince McMahon knew how to do it, but they also knew how to trickle it out.
See, but again, the problem is that Vince McMahon, even though he was in control of the product, all right, he wasn't putting his hand all over the merchandising and all over HR and all over, you had running talent relations, and that was that. If it got escalated to where it got to Vince would simply say, get the fuck out of here. Tony won't do that.
But there's something also you got to consider. Tony Khan's dad wasn't a wrestling guy. Vince's dad was a wrestling promoter. He had something to work off of.
But Vince, you got to remember one thing. Vince wasn't even a wrestling promoter. He was a rock promoter. Yeah. That was the thing. The thing is the guy got it. The reason you got rock and wrestling is because the guy was a fucking rock promoter who just happened to then take over dad's company because he saw a future. He had a fucking vision. Tony Khan told us there was a vision when they started this, but the vision was actually that of Cody, the Bucks, Omega, and Page, right? All this douchebag did was come in and say, yeah, take my money, but I want to be your friends. I want you guys to be my friends, blah, blah, blah. And what happened is you had Cody, and then you had the split with the Bucks and Omega and Page. And you had those two playing each other against Tony because everyone wanted power. But then you had Jericho. He's got to have power. Then you got Moxley. He's got to have power. Then this motherfucker is stupid enough to bring in Punk. And that's the whole problem. The problem is that instead of finding an identity, they decided that it was more important for us to get ourselves over and get over on him. And his whole thing is getting himself over as the greatest fucking person in the history of wrestling. And this shit started back early on when Cody stopped doing the fucking interviews for the media scrums and all that kind of shit. He was taking that shit over. And the problem that happened right away is that when anyone questioned anything and made it where he thought it was negative against the company, that motherfucker shut it down. Period.
He's a Kim Jong-un. But you've described communism. You described a communistic government. One guy, right at everything goes to him. Everyone's got equal say. Everyone fights amongst themselves. There's no progression. Yeah. You're describing it.
He's more of a Kim Jong-un.
I think one thing to touch on something that Steve said earlier about how Tony originally did not want to be on TV and making comparisons with Vince. Yeah. For the longest time, we knew that Vince was a commentator. And then it wasn't until the screw job, wait a minute, the commentator is the owner of the company. And that kind of organically became the Mr. McMahon character, which Bruce Prichard's gone on record for saying for the longest time he wanted to get off TV sooner, but for ratings, you kind of needed it with the Austin storyline. Right. In my opinion, with Tony Khan, when they did the whole war with TNA or with Impact, and he was on Impact Weekly with Shivani in those cringe segments with Shivani, I feel that's what catapulted TK into being this. I could be like the face of the company, the owner that's on TV at live shows. I'm coming out 3, 4, 5 times talking with the crowd. It's like, but go away with that.
And John, you're right. The problem is that no one around him told him, Tony, when you go on TV, you look like you are a fucking freak. You need to change. You need to do this. You need to. No one will tell him.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to hear it because that's what these guys are used to. This guy,
let me ask you a question. Do you think it's because the guys in the locker room are pussies? Do you think they're pussies in the sense that they're like, hey, wait a minute, I'm getting.
No. The guys in the
or
locker
are they just
room
milking it?
They're fucking smart. Yeah. You got to remember, the boys are the smartest guys here.
Oh.
Right? The guys are, listen, if you're a guy and you go, I love wrestling. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. But if you're going to continuously pay me this ridiculous salary to just sit back here in catering, what the fuck else am I going to do? Because it's setting up my family for the rest of their lives. And it's only the guys who are the super, the Jerichos, the Moxleys, the guys who are super made, Daniel Bryan. These guys are the guys who they can play off of, they want to keep their fame, right? The other guys who don't have fame, who are not getting elevated higher, collect the fucking paycheck. And eventually, at some point, when you do get the opportunity to walk away because maybe he doesn't want to.
But how good is that check?
It's fucking great, dude.
That I don't know.
It is.
It's millions of dollars, man. It's more money than what people would make in WWE under the previous regime.
And especially for the big names.
Even you're saying even just to be a jobber and show up
So the problem is that for those guys on that level, you got to remember one thing. They have no other option. It's the independents, right? So on the independents, you make more now because you're associated with that company. Your price goes up. And he allows people to work the independents. So theoretically, if you're making a couple $100,000 in the year, you also then are making on top of that whatever dates you're doing on the independents. So essentially, what he's done is instead of elevating those independent wrestlers like he promised into spots where these guys are millionaires because they became an established brand that are, very crucial to maintaining the company, he basically cut them out and brought in the guys who already had names. Why? Because the advertising fucking dollars demand that. He did not fucking realize TV and what you have to do to get these ridiculous contracts. And the reason that you'll never see Rampage or Collision go away, even if the ratings aren't fucking great, is because those viewerships are better than what they get for Big Bang fucking reruns. That's the whole
Which is why I'm saying I don't think he's going to learn anything.
No, he's not. But you know what is going to humble him? The fact that the guy he fucking let go is the reason that Warner Brothers is now talking to WWE seriously about bringing fucking Raw to the WBD networks in the new year. And if that happens, then he's going to get a reality check of where do you go now? And that's the problem. And you don't want to see that happen. You don't want to see, again, this is what happened to TNA. TNA was a very well, they went from those fucking weekly pay-per-views, that's how you watched it, to getting a deal, right? And they got on TV and they were on the Nashville network. And, it was a perfect suited thing. Then someone got in Dixie's ear. And Dixie started signing Sting and fucking Angle and
Hogan.
And then eventually Bischoff and Hogan. And what ruined the company was Bischoff and Hogan. Because now you had the egos fucking running the fucking company.
The day they got rid of the 6-sided ring.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he walked in. He was proud of it too.
Yeah, because
I got rid of the 6-sided ring. I'm like, what? Why did you do that?
They lost their identity, and that's the thing that Tony hasn't fucking realized, is that you told people what your identity was going to be, and then you never went through fully with it. And you could have his whole thing about the Forbidden Door stuff. Why even have a Forbidden Door? That should have been your fucking, work things out. And you should have been a company that had a basic revolving door.
Yes.
So that you could have storylines going on in New Japan with your guys, and New Japan here, and TNA there, and TNA here. And that's, fucking bring in MLW, bring in AAA. Conan doesn't want to fucking necessarily work with the guy. But
the thing is, they do that anyway. But then they'll have this thing where they go, "Oh, I'm going to sign this guy," but it holds no water. There's no impact to having a guy signed to your company if he's already been wrestling there once or twice a month.
But the problem is you didn't fully go full in with that idea of all the companies working together in that manner, right? Because then you make storylines and shit happen, and now you want to check out New Japan because of something that happened in AEW that went over there.
It's like what Marvel Comics did in the 90s. You'd read one comic, and then it would cross over to X-Force, and it'd cross over to X-Men, and then it would cross over New Mutants or whatever. And you're like, oh, wow, I got to read all of these to understand what's going on. And I'd like to see that. I'd love to when it was the Good Brothers were showing up everywhere. And I was like, all right, I'm invested now. Now I have to watch Impact. And that was when Tony Khan was entertaining, when he showed up on Impact Wrestling with the heart sunglasses, and he was acting like a jackass for like 5-minute little promo with Shivani in the background.
Yeah.
That was funny. And to that end, he was good. He was doing a smug Vince McMahon-esque kid version. I didn't mind that. In small doses, he was good at that. That should be the ceiling. Like, he should not be able to do more than that. And then have Cody Rhodes type. I don't know who could be the Cody Rhodes type, if there even is one. Oh wait, hold on. That's an official counter. That's 2 tonight from Michaels.
Yeah,
that's 2 counter.
It's 2, and that also means that it's the wrestling gods saying, "Shut the fuck up and move on." So for everyone here, thank you for tuning in again, and you guys are going to catch a New Year's special coming up here, and a review of the WWE for 2024. So tune in for that this coming week, and until then, happy wrestling, everybody.